I'm Cheryl B. Engelhardt, a composer and new age artist, and I made an album on a cross-country train trip. I'm here to tell you the crazy story of how it all went down. In November of 2021, I was looking to book a flight to Los Angeles from New York to attend the Grammys. Flights were so expensive, so I joked about taking a train, which led me down a rabbit hole into discovering the world of cross-country train trips. I should know better about making jokes like this. It's how I ended up touring 7 times in Switzerland. It's how I ended up with a mountain guiding husband, simply by saying something out loud. I then had the thought that I could use the time on the train to create my next album. This was all aligned with my mission as a composer, to create a unique and special experience for the listener. What better way than to dream up a crazy, spur-of-the-moment idea like being the first person to write and produce a full album on a cross-American train trip. I was scheduled to depart on my first Amtrak leg of the trip, January 22nd of 2022. Besides packing up everything I needed for the trip, including some nice outfits to wear around the train and the gifts that were sponsored to me by Kind Snacks, I really did no preparation musically. I wanted the music to be produced entirely inside the container of being on this Amtrak trip. I booked a room for the journey. Amtrak calls them roomettes, and I was determined to make these spaces my oasis. It was wonderful to have a private room for a variety of reasons, the least of which being that I was grieving the loss of one of my dearest friends and collaborators. Kevin Archambault was someone with whom I had created and produced a musical. We had been part of a dozen other musical productions, and he was that friend who saw me, all of me, who lit up a room and everyone in it no matter what was going on for him. Having my own room on the train was a gift. Over the course of the outbound journey, I started composing. I created 3 tracks on the first day between Poughkeepsie and Chicago, which set the pace for the rest of the trip. The idea was to get to Los Angeles with a completed record and then fly home. I decided this would be my first full-on ambient electronic record. All the sounds would be from synthesizer samples, none of the songs would have lyrics, and overall, it was a big departure from my usual acoustic piano and vocal layering approach. While I was on track, see what I did there, to finish the writing, by the time I got to Chicago, 19 hours in, I knew that I wanted, nay, needed more time. I could feel myself eat, pray, loving my way to a healed heart, a new direction as a new age artist, and a much-needed break from the monotonous days in my home studio. Not even halfway through the outbound trip, I canceled my flight home and booked a return train trip, increasing my total time on a train from 5 to 9 days. Yep, that's 8 nights in a sleeper car, worth every last lost wink of sleep. I changed trains in Chicago, then settled in for 3 days on the California Zephyr, the Amtrak train that would take me across the country through the Rocky Mountains. I wrote the music mostly in my roomette while heading west, but I also took my little setup and composed in the dining cars and in observation cars when it wasn't too crowded. I am lucky in that each of my roomettes seemed to be on the right side of the train to get the best views. During these stretches of extraordinary landscape, I put down my headphones and computer and soaked it all in. I actually cried tears of awe seeing a herd of elk running across the frozen Colorado River. Early on, I had created a word of the year, and that word was passenger, with the intention of getting better at going with the flow, releasing control, and having the grace and confidence of someone who is, well, a master passenger. The title of the album reflects those sentiments. When I arrived in Sacramento, I switched to the Starlight Coast train for a day trip down to Los Angeles. After arriving in Los Angeles, I left my computer in my bag for 2 days and spent time with my sister. I was truly committed to only composing and producing while on the train. I had 12 tracks by the time I had arrived. I knew I had some tweaking and editing to do, but the vast majority of the composing had come easily and quickly in the 5 days I spent traveling west. I would use the eastbound train time to edit and massage the tracks into what they are now. Additionally, I would use the eastbound trip to coordinate with collaborators, including Sherry Finzer on flutes, Dallas String Quartet, and my friend Lili Haydn, Grammy-winning artist who plays a violin and sings on The Beautiful Bridge, a phrase she said to me on the phone when she called after hearing about the loss of Kevin. And of course, my friends and new Grammy winners Sangeeta, Kaur, and Danaë Vlasse provided vocals and piano, respectively, for the songs The California Zephyr and The Message. Danaë told me she channeled my relationship with Kevin and created phrases like "Kevin loves Cheryl" and turned each letter into a note. These notes became the piano melody that you hear on that song. I boarded the Southwest Chief for the 3-day journey back to Chicago, where I switched trains for the last time, ultimately ending up back where I parked my car in Poughkeepsie, New York. While the scenery of the Southwest Chief was beautiful, there was nothing like being in the Rocky Mountains, where you felt like you weren't looking at scenery, you were part of it. This is what I hope people feel when they listen to The Passenger, that they feel they're part of something, not alone, even in solitude. When I got home, I mixed the record and sent it to Kim Rosen at Knack Mastering, making this one of the few ambient electronic albums completely produced, mixed, and mastered by women. I shared a few small snippets with my fans and asked them to share words and phrases that the music brought up for them. I took notes on their ideas, over 70 of them, and used them to name a few songs that were still nameless, or rather had temporary names like Saturday Dinner. I also started designing the album cover and the art for the singles and ran a poll with my fans to narrow down the designs. Together, we're bringing this music, designed for processing emotions, for rest, and for healing, to the world in a time when art is so needed. I'm very grateful to you for watching this, for following the journey, but most of all, for listening, for purchasing, and for sharing this art. I truly hope you enjoy The Passenger.